Very good morning. Welcome to Mornings with Ken Rosato. It is Thursday, June 25th, 2026. Just June. That's it. That was the whole month right there. You just saw it go right there. We will take your calls at 888-658-0234, 888-658-0234 to kick things off. Meteorologist Mike Favetta is in now. He has the forecast near you. Mike, yesterday to say it was delicious is unfair to delicious. It is just, it's hard to top.
It really is. That low humidity, the crispness to the air, the rich blue sky, it really made for a perfect summer day yesterday. And today I think we'll come close with the threat of some afternoon clouds coming in, but overall continued comfortable weather. It looks beautiful right now with just some high thin clouds off to our north and west. They begin to move into New Jersey by this afternoon. Plan on another round of decent weather today. Not cool, but not too hot, which is kind of right in that sweet spot through this afternoon as we look ahead to tomorrow where the warm and humid weather arrives. That's ahead of the cold front, which comes in later on in the evening. So the best chance of seeing some wet weather is later on in the day tomorrow. Until then, enjoy the clearing, especially with all of that lovely sunshine today. Later on in the overnight, tonight into tomorrow, closer to midnight, that's our best chance of seeing some wet weather roll through. And then it's kind of cloudy tomorrow across the northern half of New Jersey. Usually that happens with a warm front. Some breaks of sun down south, but even you tap into the wet weather, and that will continue into what looks to be a pretty wet Saturday with some on and off showers throughout the day as that warm front moves on by. Then we head into Sunday and we start to see some clearing by the second half of the weekend. We'll detail more about that coming up with another check of your forecast, Ken, in a few minutes.
All right, sir, we appreciate it. It is 57 degrees. Nice, comfortable start to the day now at 7:02 Eastern, 4:02 West Coast time. 57 Northern New Jersey, 60 in Trenton. In Los Angeles right now, it is 61 degrees, 63 degrees in San Diego. We look at some traffic that we have and just a few incidents, not a lot, but nonetheless enough to cause headaches. We have a tractor-trailer fire on the Turnpike, and that is right now in a roadway northbound, north of Interchange 12. That is in Carteret. All lanes are blocked, traffic getting by on the left shoulder, so that's going to cause some problems. Another issue, and this is a crash on the New Jersey Turnpike in a roadway southbound, north of Interchange 12, Carteret, Rahway. So it's the other side. I think that's just rubbernecking from the first incident. Truck fire 287 now southbound, south of exit 12, Route 623 Franklin. Right lane is closed. And we have a tractor-trailer fire also reported on the Turnpike in a roadway northbound south of Interchange 13 by 278 Goethals Bridge, Linden. Two left lanes are blocked there. Just an absolute mess right now. It's just an absolute mess. There's no other way to put it. Let me just bring up our Los Angeles traffic, folks, if I may. Let's talk about the crossings, the Hudson River crossings. We have the Lincoln and Holland now reported at 25 to 30 minutes at the Holland. It's 35 minutes at the Lincoln. You can see the stop traffic there at the Holland. And that is, of course, just morning drive traffic. We don't have any accidents or anything to report there. I'm looking. And the problem in California right now, it looks like on the 505 that there is an accident reported by Sepulveda. That's the only thing. And it's very early, obviously, West Coast time, 4 minutes after the hour. Well, two massive earthquakes struck Venezuela around 6 last night, collapsing buildings in the capital city of Caracas. The temblors briefly prompted tsunami alerts for the Caribbean. I have friends who are in Aruba and in Curacao, and those areas were under a tsunami watch last night. That must have been terrifying for people because there's nowhere to go. You're on an island, a rock in the middle of the ocean. Fortunately, there was no tsunami. But of course, whenever there is a shift in the earth like that, there could be underwater activity that causes a tsunami. So everybody had to be on high alert. The quakes were a 7.2 and a 7.5. Those are massive. And they struck only like 38 seconds apart. Rescuers rushed to try to find casualties. We understand now at least 35 people are confirmed dead and over 700 injured, and they have just begun. Now, because we have a much better relationship with Venezuela, President Trump will be sending aid. It wouldn't have happened under Maduro. But under the current interim president that they have, who President Trump happens to like very much, they happen to have a very good relationship, which is unusual because it's the first time in decades that we've had a good relationship with Venezuela. So it looks like we will be sending aid to help them out. and I'm sure neighboring countries in the northern part of South America will help. But that is an absolute disaster for a country that is now struggling to get back on its feet financially and otherwise. Now that Maduro is out, they could sell oil to the world again and start making money and rebuild that country. And this happens. So this is an absolute mess. We pray for the good people of Venezuela. A lot of great Venezuelan Americans we have here who fled the communist regime of Maduro. And now they wanted to go back to family. And this is what happens. So we wish them the best. A plane made an emergency landing at Boston Logan yesterday after the captain suffered a medical episode and had to be removed from the cockpit. It happened on Air Canada Flight 7664, leaving Newark. It was originally headed for Halifax, Nova Scotia. It left Newark at 1:37 yesterday afternoon. Now, the first officer ended up taking control. He was able to safely land the prop plane just past 2 p.m. The plane made it, by the way, from Newark to Boston in 25 minutes. So, we think of a drive to Boston being 5 or 6 hours of flight. Imagine that. It would have only been, it was 25 minutes before they landed. Nonetheless, thankfully, they were able to land safely with just one pilot. The captain was met on the tarmac with an ambulance. We don't know the condition of the captain at this point, but we know that the captain was alive when they landed. All 61 passengers aboard the plane were fine. Air Canada worked to get them all new flights to Halifax. 6 minutes past the hour, the Trump administration has now authorized federal firefighters to wear N95 respirators while fighting wildfires. The policy reverses decades of restrictions by the Forest Service. It was that they didn't want you to have any kind of apparatus like that on your face because the mask itself could catch fire. Also, it made it difficult to inhale. But they've just determined which is the lesser of two evils, in not being able to inhale as much oxygen or inhaling oxygen with tons of pollutants that could be cancer causing. So they now, under the Trump administration, they said, no, at least give them the option. And they will be able to wear N95 masks. Research links wildfire smoke exposure to cancer and heart disease. The agency is also launching new decontamination procedures. Now, get this. Used to be when they were done fighting that fire, and I had an uncle who was a fire captain. When they would get done fighting the fire, it's protocol that you have to wash down the truck, you have to wash down your uniform because you need it for the next fire, and also because it's just loaded with soot. And many times you didn't get paid for that. That was considered part of your shift. Well, that's ridiculous. So now under President Trump, they are going to get paid to clean up and prep. Excuse me as I fix my cable here. They're going to get paid to clean up and prep for the next fire. So you can see right there, they're taking care of stuff. So when they're done with fighting that fire, they will continue to get paid to clean up. They just risk their lives. They're supposed to not get paid to clean up. Come on. A radical leftist Biden-appointed federal judge permanently blocked key parts of President Trump's executive order regarding elections. The ruling temporarily stops a proof of citizenship requirement for voter registration. So the president said by executive fiat that in order to vote, you had to present identification. Somebody sued. This judge stepped in and said, President doesn't have that authority, even though it's arguable that under an executive order he could. What's funny is under President Obama, who signed more executive orders than just about anyone other than President Biden, there was never a question. Nobody ever questioned President Obama's executive orders. And many of them, you just scratch your head and say, that's not constitutional. But they allowed it to go through. And it was like they were afraid to ever question the good President Obama. But because they consider President Trump the evil one sent from Satan, everything, literally, you could pull it up. You will see that there have been more challenges to his executive orders than every other president in history. Is it because his executive orders are especially egregious? No. In fact, they're a lot less egregious than many, including President Reagan, many previous presidents. But yet it's an attack mob. Basically, if he signed an executive order that says we must save babies' lives who are gasping for air in the street, somebody would say you can't do that. You can't sign an executive order for that and challenge him in court. So right now, other proposed changes, we should say, include stricter mail ballot rules. Right now, in California, you can drop off your ballot in the middle of a field if there is a collection box with nobody watching. So you don't know if anyone has access to that box. And that's the question. How many people cheat? How many people have access to the boxes? Ken, there's no evidence. Actually, there's a lot of evidence. A lot of evidence. We know in Connecticut, there was a video camera of a woman who was a clerk in one of the towns, I believe in Bridgeport, who was literally daily piling stacks of ballots into these unmanned boxes because she thought nobody was watching. Well, it turns out somebody set up a camera and caught her literally putting in about 100 ballots a day to get the mayor at the time elected, who was already convicted of a crime. Imagine that. But that's the way the system works. And I'll let you assume which party that person was a member of. Okay. But you just scratch your head. So when you say there's absolutely no evidence, there's a lot of evidence, a lot of evidence. And by the way, even if it's one vote that's illegally cast, that impacts an election. It could take away, it could negate my vote, my legitimate vote, because that person's cheating. So why is one party so reticent to having the president of the United States simply say, if you want to cast a vote, you just have to be a citizen and have to be able to show you're a citizen? It's very simple. And the vast majority of Americans in both parties, Republican and Democrat, say, yeah, we should do that. Yes, 70% of Democrats agree you should have to show ID to vote. But the leadership in the Democrat Party doesn't want it. You got to scratch your head. Speaking of the Save America Act, which is the act, by the way, that would require that, only it's by Congress, not executive order, President Trump canceled a planned signing ceremony for a housing bill yesterday. He said he wants the Senate to pass the Save America Act first because they keep kicking it down the line. He's saying, oh, really? Well, if you want my signature on this housing bill that both Democrats and Republicans want, you better pass the Save Act, then come back to me. So the House already passed the Save Act in February. The Senate has been dragging its feet. It's a game they play, so we'll see what happens. They want to go back to their constituents and say, look what I did. So if they want to do that, they have to play with the president. Crews have begun dismantling Florida's so-called alligator Alcatraz detention center. The facility was only meant to be temporary. It was never a permanent facility. It's on the end of a runway, so with tents. So it was never meant to be a permanent facility. But some members of the media are making it sound like, look, it's costing us money. We have to rip it down now. It was to handle the huge influx of illegal migrants by the Biden administration. We had nowhere to put them. Remember, we were originally saying we were going to fly them to Cuba, to Guantanamo Bay. And then everybody screamed, you can't fly them out of the country. Can't do that. So he said, okay, we'll keep them in the country. We're going to put them in a friggin' tent at the end of a runway, surrounded by water with alligators. How about that? So they did that until this is hurricane season. So they can't leave tents up in hurricane season because they'll get washed away. So now they're moving everybody out. And also the number of migrants being held there are way down because many of them have been processed already and deported. But the way it's being reported in mainstream media makes you scratch your head. It's being reported like a judge fought this and fought. No. It was never, ever intended to be up more than a year or so. And it was up as it is about a year and a half. So it's now gone. There you go. Camp Mystic filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy nearly a year after Texas floods killed people. The floods killed 25 innocent campers, 2 counselors, and the camp's director. Court filings estimate debts between $10 and $50 million. Investigators criticized the camp's emergency planning and evacuation procedures. Families of the victims have filed lawsuits seeking damages. The bankruptcy filing temporarily pauses those legal claims. Bill Gates testified before Congress about his knowledge of Jeffrey Epstein, his relationship with him. He said Epstein knew about several of his extramarital affairs. Gates believes that Epstein tried using that information to pressure him. He denied being blackmailed or paying Epstein money, though. Their discussions focused mainly on philanthropy and fundraising ideas, he says. Gates called his association with Epstein a serious mistake. And a woman filmed taking a Knicks-themed trash can. She is, by the way, a woman who's the head of a DEI department. That right there is a professional woman in charge of DEI at a major institution. And on camera, she steals a Knicks trash can and dumps the garbage all over the place. So that is theft, allegedly, and pollution. And yet, I guarantee if you check it out, you'll see that she's on the left side politically and pro-environment, yet she had no problem dumping all that stuff all over the place. Really nice. Really nice. Go out and buy yourself a trash can for $10 and a thing of spray paint and just do it yourself. Why do you got to do that? Her name is Angie Baez. She worked as an executive director at, get this, J.P. Morgan Chase. And she dumped all that trash. Well, from what I understand, she may not be there for long. But yeah, you don't act as an executive for J.P. Morgan Chase and get caught on camera doing that. And the world's oldest known football has traveled from Scotland to Miami. The ball is believed to be 500 years old. It was discovered inside Stirling Castle during renovations. Experts date it to the era of Mary, Queen of Scots. The artifact will be displayed during a World Cup match. That is fun. Okay, so when we return, summertime usually thought of as carefree and fun, but summer can actually be a trigger for anxiety for kids and families. We will talk about that. You're watching Mornings. Come back in 2. And good morning. Welcome back to Mornings with Ken Rosato. I'm he. It is 18 minutes past the hour. We have a temperature of 59 degrees northern New Jersey, 61 degrees now in Southern California, and in Fort Lauderdale as we welcome our friends from ONFLA. It is 78 degrees but sticky. Welcome back. It is good to have you all here. If you'd like to give a call, we will take your calls at 888-658-0234. Meteorologist Mike Favetta has the forecast near you. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Ken. Yeah, humidity is on the rise today. You'll start to feel that. Oh, especially over the next few days with more of that muggy weather coming into play. We started out the day a little bit clear, but anticipate some more of that muggy weather to come in over the next few days. It's all coming from the south and west. You can see these line of showers that move in, kind of dragging along this cold front over the next few days. So we get our first round of rain overnight, and some of that could linger into tomorrow afternoon's forecast with these spotty showers again on Saturday, leading to a little bit of a wet start to the weekend. However, by Sunday, I think we clear out nicely. The big high pressure slides on down, and that will give us a return to the dry, comfortable conditions that we'll enjoy for the rest of the week into next week. So a little bit of that clear sky right now, and you can even see over the next few hours, those clouds starting to build today. Dry, however, a little bit of humidity, but not expecting any rain. And then later tonight into the overnight hours, around midnight, starting through the morning rush tomorrow and into tomorrow afternoon, some possible clouds and showers, and then looking pretty wet going into Saturday. So the forecast looks more humid, a little bit wetter, warmer into this weekend, and then we dry out just in time for Sunday and next week. We'll give you details on next week's forecast coming up with another check of your forecast, Ken, in a few minutes.
Very good, sir. Thank you, Mike. It is 7:19 right now, East Coast, 4:19 West, 61 degrees now in northern New Jersey, and it is 62 in Los Angeles. A couple of incidents to tell you about. On 280, we have a crash westbound east of exit 5 in Roseland. Left lane is closed. 287, we have a truck fire southbound south of exit 12 in Franklin. Right lane of 3 lanes and the ramp lane closed. We have a tractor trailer fire on the turnpike, and this is in a roadway northbound north of interchange 12 Carteret Rawway in Carteret. All lanes blocked. Traffic now getting by on the left shoulder. That's an absolute nightmare. Another crash on the turnpike. This is in the other direction at interchange 12. Tractor trailer fire now at, well, there we go. You could see it. Look at the traffic. Thank you for getting that for us, Pam. On the turnpike, just an exit away, we have a tractor trailer fire. That's bizarre. A crash and a tractor trailer fire within a mile on the turnpike. This one is now inner roadway northbound south of interchange 13 by the Goethals Bridge in Linden. The 2 left lanes are blocked. Your Hudson River crossings right now, Lincoln and Holland are both jamming 35 to 40 minutes in. Which you can see the 139, which comes off of the turnpike going into the tubes, is just bumper to bumper. It's been that way for about half an hour. And the GWB upper and lower levels, very heavy, about 35 to 40 minutes in already at 21 minutes past. You can see the upper level on the right, lower level on the left. In Los Angeles, just a few incidents to tell you about. There's a traffic collision, unknown injuries in West LA at the 405 and Skirball Center Drive on-ramp. We have a collision, no injuries, South LA at the 710 and the West Willow Street off-ramp. And there's a collision at the 110 and Avenue 60 in Central LA. 21 minutes past the hour. You know, summer is often thought of as a carefree time for kids. But for some families, the break from school routines and the day-to-day can actually increase stress and anxiety. Your change in your schedule can be, and the daily structure, that you normally have for kids, that can be challenging. Dr. Liz Nissim is a clinical and school psychologist. We say good morning, Dr. Nissim. Good to have you on.
Thank you so much for having me. Good morning.
You bet. Well, good morning to you. Summer usually associated with fun and relaxation, but it could really be stressful for kids, right?
Absolutely. It is. Most of us think of summer as being a great time, a time of less structure. But for many children, that transition from the structure of the school year to the flexibility of the summer can increase anxiety, ironically.
And what are some of the signs of anxiety that parents should be looking out for in their kids?
So, things to look for. Younger children are not going to be able to say, hey, I'm feeling anxious and use their words that way. So, for younger children, you'll see an increase in their clinginess or more tantruming or having a hard time sleeping and staying asleep through the night, waking up in the middle of the night, having complaints of stomach aches or headaches, or seeing any regression in behaviors. And that's usually what we see in younger children. For children who are more school age, they might begin to express concern about what's coming up. What is my day going to look like? What time, if they're doing camp or any summer activities, what time are we doing this? Because there is a lack of structure, or less structure, I should say, and not as much predictability in terms of where am I going? Who am I seeing? What are we doing? School is a very structured environment. They know exactly what to expect. So having more outbursts or having a hard time separating from parents. We even see signs in teens during this time where they begin to withdraw. And teens typically spend a lot of time in their rooms, but it's a change. So everything is a change. And that's when you begin to see, oh, there's something going on. Again, change in sleep patterns, sleeping too much, too little, an increase in irritability, excessive use of screens as a way to regulate and calm and distract, or just avoiding social interactions when you once had a child or a teen that enjoyed social interactions.
Is there a time, though, that it changes from just summer boredom, a little stress, to something that maybe requires talking to somebody professional?
My thought is when you're seeing this for more than 2 weeks, generally our children are able to adjust and acclimate to the new routine as long as there's a lot of predictability and it's communicated. So within 2 weeks, if you're seeing the same kind of behaviors, it's time to address it. That the anxiety is not just regular stress or just trying to anticipate what's coming next. And now it's more anxiety that needs to be addressed.
And a parent knows when there's something up with their child, right? You could just tell. Your gut usually tells
Absolutely.
you the way they're acting. One of your recommendations, though, is to keep some structure in place. So give us an idea of what that looks like.
So it doesn't have to be a rigid schedule, but it can during the summer, just even having a visual list on the wall in the kitchen or wherever is a central place in your home, having like a consistent wake up time, having a sequence of what's to happen over the course of the day, meal times, bedtime routines, whatever the planned activities, it could be day by day, just so that our children, young children, teens know what's to come. Many of them just want to know what's
Mhm.
happening today, what's happening tonight. And if there's a general structure that you adhere to, again, it doesn't have to be minute by minute or hour by hour, but just this is what we're doing next. That tends to really reduce the anxiety because it's a lack of control, not knowing what's happening. And a lot of our children need that, even during the summer, especially during
I
the
was
summer.
Yeah, exactly, right, because of the change. Doctor, summer, of course, often comes with camps and vacations and other changes. I remember, I'm just thinking back to when I was a kid, I was in the Scouts and we were supposed to go camping. I had never been camping. So I was terrified, terrified. I had no idea. I thought about wild animals. And one of the things that concerned me, they said, one of my fellow Scouts said, "Oh, and you poop in the woods." Excuse me for being so frank. And I didn't know what to do. I was like, "You poop in the woods. How do you do?" And it's the type thing that really freaked me out. And I was having panic attacks to the point that I said, I don't want to go. So what do you
Yeah.
do to calm kids and reassure them and let them know that this is fun and this is not, it's new, but it's also going to be a great time? How do you encourage them to enjoy rather than stress out?
So I'm a big fan of expose them to what's coming, right? So new school year, go to the school playground. New camp, go to the site if you can. Show them where the bus stop is going to be or what time you're going to be leaving during in the morning if you're driving them, and review the schedule and talk through the expectations. Because it's really, I know for my own children needed to know where we were going. Even if it was like we're going
Mhm.
to a water park, my kids needed to know. So I would pull up on the website, here's where we're going. So they just had a visual. And then that became very important to me as a psychologist in private practice, that I have pictures of the office space so that children can anticipate where they're coming, even like just the door to the office. So having a visual of what it's going to look like, because they need to play that out in their mind. They need to
Mhm.
know, where am I going? Who am I signing in with? Right. And just walking through that so that the novelty is taking away. And now they're in their minds going, so first I'm going to go and we're going to sign in with the camp counselor. Then I'm going to go join my group. And then I'm, going to drop off my lunch or whatever the sequence is. But
Mhm.
knowing what that sequence is and having a visual of where you're going to be can be very helpful.
It gives them control back. That's fantastic. Great advice, great information. I'm sure a lot of parents are feeling the stress already, and that's great advice so that both parents and kids don't have to be stressed out for the summer. Doctor, is there a website that people could check out?
Absolutely. Psychedconsult.com. That's the name of my practice is Psychological and Educational Consulting in Livingston, New Jersey.
Awesome. Dr. Liz Nissim, clinical and school psychologist. So important. And remember all aspects of health for our kids for the summer, psychological health, emotional health. Let your child enjoy their summer. And this is a great way to make sure they will. Thank you so much, Doctor, for coming on today.
Thank you. Have a great summer.
You as well. And maybe I'll go back to that camp now.
Go
it's
ahead. Go
only
take
been
a look. Take some pictures and
it's only
video.
been 52 years. I'll figure it out. Thank you so much, Doctor.
Absolutely.
Have
My
a great
pleasure.
day. Thank you. I love it. 28 minutes past the hour. When we come back, we're going to talk to our good friend. Yes, you're going to say deja vu, our friend from Binge, Tom Bergeron. He's going to talk about something different from yesterday. We're going to actually talk a little bit about how things are going with the World Cup in New Jersey. How are things? Is it good? Is it bad? The good, the bad, and the ugly with Tom Bergeron. He'll tell it like it is. It is 28 minutes past, and we're coming back in 2 minutes. very good morning. 31 minutes past the hour, Thursday, June 25th, 2026. Welcome back to Mornings with Ken Rosato, live on the East Coast and the West, and also our good friends in Florida on our new channel on FLA.com. Now, meteorologist Mike Favetta has a slightly stickier forecast near you. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Ken. It's going to start to feel like Florida around here really quickly, especially this evening. You feel it when you step outside this morning. There's a little bit of mugginess to the air. The humidity is a little bit higher. You can thank a little bit of a south and southwesterly wind for that, pushing up a lovely amount of sunshine, but also quite a bit of humidity too. And it feels more humid through this afternoon as compared to yesterday. Even more humid with the clouds and showers going into tomorrow. Out on the West Coast, it is dry as a bone, staying nice and clear today, and with a little bit of that morning marine layer giving way to some clouds this afternoon. Lots of sunshine each day. Obviously, that's in the afternoon. Once that marine layer lifts, you can even see it there in the Central Valley too, with those clouds giving way to the afternoon sun. Dry weather, no chance of rain, so it stays very pleasant out west, and even the satellite picture agrees with that clear sky lasting into this weekend. All right, back to the East Coast. We stay humid over the next couple of days, and even beyond into next week, heading into the holiday week. Can't believe it. 4th of July is just next weekend. Look at the clouds that take over for this Saturday, clearing by Sunday. We get a lovely round of dry weather going into Monday and Tuesday, and that should set the stage for a little bit of a warm-up next week, bringing our highs slightly above average, but also keeping us rather pleasant without the threat of, serious steady rains. With that, we have the warm weather today, a little bit of shower activity tonight, more clouds on the way for tomorrow. And then even though Saturday looks a little wet, I think we clear things up by Sunday as that high pressure slides down and makes a beautiful finish to the weekend. Lovely weather on the way for next week. Even warmer than average conditions for the first week of July. We'll tell you more about that coming up with your next weather update, Ken, in just a few minutes.
All right, sir. Thank you very, very much. It is 33 minutes past. We have a temp of, what do we got? 60 degrees northern New Jersey, 61 in Trenton, and we have 63 in Los Angeles, 62 degrees now in San Diego as we check our traffic and a lot of it. Let's go over to the New Jersey Turnpike. We have a crash and a tractor-trailer fire on the Turnpike inner roadway northbound, north of Interchange 12, which is in, wow, look at that mess. Look at that mess. And that is Carteret Rawway in Carteret. All lanes blocked, traffic now getting by on the left shoulder. That's going to be an absolute mess right now. And that is, again, that's the, let's see, I want to clarify something because that's the inner roadway here. And that is northbound. Okay, so northbound, all lanes are getting by on the left shoulder. Southbound, we have tons of traffic now as a result. All lanes are open to traffic southbound. They were closed earlier. So northbound, we still have the lanes closed. Southbound, they are now open. All right, just to clarify that. We have a truck fire now reported 287 southbound south of exit 12, which is in Franklin. The right lane and ramp lane are both closed. On 280, we have a crash westbound east of exit 5 in Roseland. Left lane is closed. Garden State Parkway crash southbound by exit 140 in Union. The left lane is blocked there. Hudson River crossings are a mess. We don't have the 495 cam. Of course we don't have it because today and right now we have police department activity at the Lincoln Tunnel, the eastbound side, of course, from New Jersey into New York. We're told the center lane is blocked by the toll plaza in Weehawken. So don't know what the police department activity is. Could be anything. Could be an accident. Could be a medical emergency. We don't know. Nonetheless, your approach now to the Lincoln Tunnel is going to cost you $45. Your approach to the Holland, we do have this camera. This is Route 139, making your way. Look at that mess. Somebody will get up there with Windex. I guarantee it'll take about 2 years, but someone will. You have about 35 to 40, we're told, in by the Holland Tunnel. That's the approach from 78 on Route 139. And then the GWB is also an absolute mess with 40 to 45 minutes in. The upper levels on the right side of your screen, lower levels on the left. And good luck getting into Manhattan today, folks. Over in LA, just a couple of things to tell you about. Traffic collision. No reported injuries, though. Santa Fe Springs on the 605 at the 105. And then we have an animal on the roadway and Central LA at the 5 and the 10 where they intersect. So that's a major intersection. That is right in the heart of LA. And then there's a collision. No injuries reported South LA at the 710 and West Willow Street off ramp. It is 36 minutes past the hour. The FIFA World Cup well underway in our region and around the country, bringing international attention, thousands of visitors, and plenty of excitement. But beyond the matches themselves, questions remain about transportation, economic impact, and whether local businesses are really seeing any benefits that the people expected. Joining us now is Tom Bergeron, owner, founder, editor-in-chief of Business in New Jersey Every Day, binge.com, binje.com. He's here to talk about what he is seeing as the tournament unfolds across the metro. Good morning to you, Tom. Always good to have you back.
Ken, good to be here.
Likewise. It feels like deja vu, like yesterday. So what is your overall assessment of how things have gone so far in New Jersey? This has been good, but there's been, I think, a lot of businesses expected lines of people to come to their businesses, right?
So I was thinking about this segment, and I think the best way to describe it is you have on the one hand the hope and the expectations, which might have been somewhat unrealistic, and then you have the reality, which actually might be better than people are saying. So it's really a mixed bag, what you're talking about. I mean, you can start right with the men's team itself, 2-0, mm-hmm. They play tonight. All of a sudden, people are talking about them winning the World Cup or making the final. Quite frankly, if they made the quarterfinals, it would be the greatest result that they've ever had in the modern era. So we need to be careful of what the realities are and what the hope and the expectations are. And I think that filters its way through traffic and business and all that.
Yeah, you're right about the realistic hopes. And I think a lot of people figured 1.25 million are coming to the area. Everyone's coming to my deli. They're all coming to my deli to get my World Cup FIFA special hero with such and such. You know, you might get a dozen, but a lot of people are staying realistically in Manhattan and taking transportation over to New Jersey. And I think that was a big factor that a lot of people didn't anticipate. They figured, oh, the hotels in New Jersey will all be packed. Meanwhile, a few weeks before this began, we had hotels available, right? Hotel rooms available in northern New Jersey, 100%. Which I think was a surprise
it was
to
almost
many.
Name your price on some of those. Look, let's start by giving the new administration credit. They mm-hmm. decided to do away with the Fan Fest in Jersey City at Liberty State Park, which, while it had an unbelievable backdrop, what more could you want? It was difficult to get to, and the idea that they were talking 50 to 100,000 people a day would be going there to watch the matches just was not realistic, was not going to happen. So you give credit to the Sherrill administration for sort of pulling the plug on that and saying, we are going to try to give a lot of smaller dollars to smaller venues around the state. And those, again, when you look at the realistic nature of it, have been pretty successful. The Flag Cities program, which is probably the hallmark of them, there's going to be 7 events. Their first event in Jersey City drew 15,000 people. They had one in Newark last night. They have 4 more to go. So those have been great, right? You're getting local activation. And then you're seeing some of the other things down in central Jersey where the Yard with Devgo and Chris Palladino putting games at New Brunswick have been great. They had something called the Battle of Basking Ridge. They realized that Brazil and Morocco were both staying close to Basking Ridge, Bernard's area. They did a Saturday one-day festival, got a lot of people out there, had a lot of fun. Local businesses benefit because they're in their town. That's the way it's going to happen. There's been some great activations at American Dream, but if you were expecting all of these people to come and show up at the local shops, it just doesn't work that way. And it didn't work that way in the Super Bowl, and they made a good effort. But really, it's the bigger festivals that'll do better. Now, that being said, some of the small places, we did a story on La Fortaleza, which literally you can see MetLife Stadium in Carlstadt. They're doing great, but it's not because of FIFA. It's just because they always do great. And they put up a great soccer atmosphere and a lot of the regulars, and they got some of the locals to come. That's the type of thing that's really excelling so far.
Yeah, I mean, I always tell people, think of yourself. You go on vacation to Italy or to Ireland or wherever. Do you go to Joe's Deli down the street? Do you go to the place? The place is right in the touristy area. You know, you don't even know that such and such exists 15 blocks out of the way. And how are you going to get there? So just be realistic. Now, for those people who are going to be here for weeks, they'll have time to explore. But for those people who are only going to be here for their tournament and then they get, they get eliminated, well, they're going to be gone. So I think you're right. Reality here. We have to really wake up to the reality. How do you think transportation's been working out?
So again, expectations versus reality. Anyone that's been to a Beyonce concert or a Giants game at MetLife Stadium, you do not get in your car and just drive away and everything's all great. So the first day of Brazil and Morocco of the event, there was a lot of people complaining that it took 2 or 3 hours to clear the lot. That there's only so many trains that can come and so efficiently they can do. They were very proud of the fact that the other day for the Norway-Senegal match, which had been the highlight at MetLife Stadium, we can get into that. It rained. It started raining right after the game, and within 2 hours, they had everyone cleared out of the way. And I know that sounds like a lot, but there's only so many people you can get on a train and a bus at the same time. They have this working methodically. They're doing a good job. Again, anyone who sat out in a Giants game in the parking lot knows the pain of it. And remember, you're talking about a soccer match. Everyone stays till the final whistle. Everyone leaves at the same time. Nobody's leaving in the 7th inning of a game, so to speak. No one's tailgating after the game for an hour, so to speak. So you have a funnel that's difficult to handle. And it's easy to complain. It's easy to say we should be out of there. But overall, I think they've done a pretty good job.
I personally anticipated way more traffic than we've gotten. In fact, I think traffic is worse in Manhattan because they shut down so many roads in order to get people to and from than New Jersey. Because I'm still working at radio in Manhattan. I go back and forth on the weekends and a couple of days a week. And I'm finding getting there from New Jersey is fine. Once you get to Manhattan, it's been a freaking nightmare, even on the weekends. So there's where the traffic issues are. But New Jersey, I think, you're right. Governor Sherrill, I think her administration, I think they've done as efficient a job as any human beings can be expected to do. You know, it is what it is. There are certain realities. They can't snap their fingers and make certain things happen. And the fact that they just got here, I think they're doing a very good job. It's pretty darn organized. I haven't heard a whole lot of complaints in going to businesses in that area.
New York, this always happens. The big event comes to New Jersey. New York gets the benefits of the hotel. So if they get the traffic, good for them. I thought one of the keys, the game the other night when the Norwegians came and just put on a show with their uniform rowing in the stands and just going nuts. And that's a spirit of an event that you don't see in the U.S. for any. You can go to the Final Four, the Super Bowl, the World Series. You don't see that type of spirit. That's what the World Cup brings. But where were the Norwegians yesterday? They were at Citi Field. So that tells you they weren't staying in Secaucus if they're going to Citi Field for a game. Yes. And that's okay. If I'm from Norway, I'm probably staying in New York City rather than North Jersey. I hate to say it myself. Like you said, when you go to Rome, you know, you're not going to the little place. You're going to see the Colosseum.
Right. You don't say, to Joey di San Josefino, which is about 37 miles northeast of Rome to the west, to the north. Hey, 27 cabs, you can get there. You're right. Exactly. You stay right near the Colosseum. You want that view. You want to be able to take the picture, et cetera. So, I mean, I think all in all, what would you grade it overall? If you had to just give it a grade of A through E, what would you, I don't know what E would be. I guess that's lower. That would be like not quite an F, but what would you give it?
Again, what are the expectations? If people thought that the entire world was going to stop because the World Cup came here, as it does in some other countries, they were mistaken. Look, the Knicks championship was more important than the World Cup for a while. I think right now you have to give it a 7 or 8. You're seeing some good atmosphere. I'm going to go to Philly today to check out the atmosphere down there. As the tournament kicks into the knockout round next week, I think you're going to see a bigger understanding of what's going on. But again, this is soccer is growing. Soccer has reached a level of saturation. This isn't 94, but it's not the Super Bowl. It's going to outdraw the Super Bowl globally, but it's not going to be the interest of the Super Bowl locally. We just have to accept that and realize that this is a cool, fun tournament. Enjoy it. It'll be gone in a month. And, it's a once in a generation thing.
Look at Tom Bergeron playing the parrot. My gosh, you and your logic. Damn you. Owner, founder, editor-in-chief of Business in New Jersey Everyday, binge.com. We love when you come on all the time. Tom, you say it like it is. Tom Bergeron, thank you for coming on, my friend.
Always a pleasure.
Likewise. All right, 45 minutes past the hour. When we come back, New York takes a deep dive toward democratic socialism. Yes, the DS. Why now? What caused it? And where is it headed? News Nation's Elizabeth Pran is going to be here to talk about it. We're coming back in 2 minutes. Welcome back to Mornings with Ken Rosato. It's 48 minutes past the hour. Taking calls at 888-658-0234. Meteorologist Mike Favetta with a forecast at your city. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Ken. A little bit of sunshine today, but a lot of humidity on the way back for tomorrow. So we'll enjoy our last full day of sun with dry conditions through this afternoon. And then you see this warm front that comes in, moves over New Jersey, brings in the threat of some rain later tonight. We get some thunderstorms around after midnight. And some of those showers linger throughout the day tomorrow as it becomes very warm and very humid. So it'll be a day where you'll have extra clouds and might have to run around some of the storms through the afternoon. Not expected to be severe because it's not along a cold front. There's enough wet weather to at least provide some showers for the end of the day tomorrow. And some of that rain even lingers into Saturday. Now, Sunday looks very dry. We're back to the clear sky. High pressure moves in, and that clears the way for a beautiful start to next week. It's also going to be warmer next week, too. Even through next weekend for Independence Day and the holiday, you have all of this warm air that shifts eastward, delivering a pretty round of hot weather that takes over through the rest of next week. And beyond that, the drought significantly improved with all of the rain that's happening down across the southeast, so not as severe or extreme of a drought there. However, we still have our dry weather that's been, well, at a rainfall deficit over the last few weeks here in New Jersey. We'll talk more about that. And your 7-day forecast, Ken, it's all coming up in the next hour.
All right, thank you so much, sir. Appreciate you. Garden State Parkway, we have issues now. A crash on the GSP southbound in the area of exit 140. I'm going to do this old school because Pam did not have time to do this. So let's show you. This is the way we play the game. Right there, you see that traffic? That is what we're talking about. I wasn't able to give Pam the information on time. But that is right now, that's a problem on the Garden State Parkway southbound. The area of exit 140, very busy interchange. And right now, you're talking about 2 to 3 miles of 10-mile-an-hour traffic. Very, very slow. That's due to a crash. On 280, we have a crash right now, westbound east of exit 5, Roseland, one left lane closed. We also have a truck fire 287 southbound, south of exit 12, Route 623 in Franklin, with the right lane and the ramp lane both closed. Tractor trailer fire closing things down New Jersey Turnpike southbound, and that is interchange 12. That's causing about a 3-mile delay right now. The other side, northbound, is open but rubbernecking, and then your Hudson River crossings are an absolute mess as well. Lincoln and Holland both costing you 35 to 40. The GWB upper and lower levels right now, 45 minutes solid, making your way into Uptown, and that's what you got, upper level on the right, lower on the left. LA only has one little issue at the 405 and Sepulveda, where you have a crash that's off to the shoulder. It is 51 minutes past the hour. It started with the AOCs of the world. The Democrat Party started to lean more and more to the left. Then the squad arose. That's all the members around AOC gathered together as the most left-wing members of Congress for a couple of years, right? Then along came Zohran Mamdani. He was elected mayor of New York by a landslide. And since then, with just one exception, anybody who has run as a Democratic Socialist in New York has beat out traditional Democrats, which if you asked 10 years ago, 5 years ago, people would have scratched their heads and said, no way. So why now? Where'd they come from? What does that mean for the Democrat Party? Is it morphing into the Democratic Socialist Party, or will the Democrats cease to exist like the Whigs? So let's bring in our dear friend, News Nation's Elizabeth Pran, a journalist, mom, wife, good friend, host of the Raising America podcast. Elizabeth is seen every week at this time here on Mornings. We say good morning to you.
Boy, Ken, how much time do you have? How much time
I got
do you
20
have
minutes, 30. Go ahead.
Where do we begin with the hysteria this week? And I say hysteria not alluding to either side, simply the reaction, right? And I've gone down a rabbit hole for days, whether it's pronouncing a candidate's name right or wrong. The bottom line is they wipe the floor, right? With Democratic establishment candidates. So one of the biggest questions that I have for you is this a pendulum swing? Is it a reaction? Is it a flash in the pan, or is it an institutional shift? Because you see the rise of the Bernie Sanders and the AOCs. But this really made a statement when you look at what happened in New York. This is the strongest example, and yes, you can call it the Mamdani effect, where he's been affiliated with the DSA and he has really supported these candidates. So if you break down each one, if you look at, for example, Brad Lander and Daralisa Avilia Chavalet, which, by the way, have you gone down a rabbit hole of how many ways her name is pronounced? I wouldn't.
Well, she's part Dominican, part Haitian. So there's the mix of the Latino, and she speaks, I think, both. She's
Yeah.
dangerous candidate. That's why she won. But I'm sorry, I defer to you.
And they didn't just eke by. I mean, these were incumbents. These were establishments. These were folks who had support from, I don't know, Hakeem Jeffries. And then you have a Claire Valdez who we interviewed. That was an open race, right? For an open congressional seat.
Yep.
We interviewed Antonio Reynoso. Why I thought he was really impressive, just, non-bias here, is that he is a product of the institution. So his mom worked, 2 jobs. He didn't even know that they were struggling. She took advantage of all the government assistance that was available, and now he is a success story. That is a great campaign to run on, right? So when you and I say, okay, is this a pendulum? What are they running on? Why are they being excessive? Why are they being so successful? Well, there is a movement right now, and there is an affordability crisis, right? So if you're running on unions and you're running on the fact that private equity is buying up the American dream and then renting it back to you, well, that's pretty easy to digest. That's also easy to digest when you're selling it in 60-second verticals that are going viral on social media, and you have 20-year-olds who are saying, you're right, I literally can't buy a home and I have a job. So they are being actually fairly successful. What I will say is that we are in a primary. Campaigning and governing, as you and I have seen, are 2 very different things. Social media campaigns and then going down to DC and working with members of Congress are 2 very, very different things. Put your money where your mouth is, finish the general, which, by the way, this is New York. They're probably all going to be elected. But let me see how you are going to govern. That is something wildly different from a primary campaign, right?
Yeah. And just to remember, think about this. Under the last administration, and this is not to blame, but the reality is statistically, millions upon millions upon millions of migrants, both legal and illegal, came into the U.S. and they didn't settle in Waukesha. They settled in the big cities. New York being one of them, in fact, the primary one. So you have upwards of 1 to 2 million migrants, legal and illegal, in New York City. 1 to 2 million. What does that do to the foundation, the mindset of the masses? Now, the legal migrants, when they become citizens, they could vote. In the meantime, many of them have registered with driver's licenses, and many, we find out, have probably voted. Certainly, they voted in local elections. So the question is, how has that had an impact? So think about these statistics. Right now, New York City is 70% non-white, okay? 50% of all households in New York City, English is not the primary language. 50%. That number was 26% 5 years ago. It is now 50%, and it's not just Spanish, it's every language of the world being spoken. And 40% of all people who live in New York were born in another country. Now, when you take all that and you think these are people who come to this city, okay, with ideas of their own government, they don't understand the concept of liberty, freedom. They're coming for a job. They're coming for something better, but they don't grasp the full concept of America, and that we don't take money from this person and give it to that person. That's not America. They just think, I'm poor, this person rich, I take money. And I'm not trying to make fun with the voice. I'm just saying that's the basics, because we got to eat, you got money, we want it. That's when you get DSA. And I think that's what you have. When you have too many people at once coming into a city and they can't properly assimilate, there you go.
Well, assimilation, that's really the sticking point here. So on that argument, going forward, then how does the Democratic Party have an identity crisis? Because if you look at the success or whatever your opinion is of the mayor of New York, he ran on a number of issues, some of which are unattainable, some of which, can you say, universal childcare, are something that can be adopted by the Democratic Party. We saw him agree with that, agree with Governor Hochul, get additional funding, and now more children have support. If children have support, then folks can go back to work, and then we all win. So that is something that can be adopted. But when you talk about free transportation and then free grocery stores, the governor's going to say, that's not something I can get on board with. That's unobtainable. We need that money to fund the transit system. So that's not something that's feasible. My question to you, my statement to you is, what does this mean for the Democratic Party going forward? Because let's talk about assimilation. Do they have to bring in some of these ideas? These folks are winning. These are not small statistics. So as you mentioned, the statistics of folks moving into cities, they will go vote. They will be represented. So what does that mean going forward is really the big question. I think that
Here is Zoran Mamdani right here. Here is Kathy Hochul, the puppet. That's what I think is going to happen. Zoran's in charge. Kathy has no say. Kathy Hochul, whom I viciously mock because of her buck teeth, bad tooth cap job that she had.
Don't you come for my smile. Don't you be coming for my smile.
No. Here's the thing. I interviewed her before she was lieutenant governor, and she had, perfectly normal teeth. They were small and they had little spaces. All of a sudden, she becomes lieutenant governor and governor. She has these caps that it looks like make chiclets look tiny. I'm sorry. And she's talking like this. Sorry, I'm being mean because I can be that. But the reality is she will do anything to survive politically. And she now knows the pendulum has now shifted that way. And she must kiss DSA ass if she wants to get reelected. That's that.
But
that's
what
what she's
a perfect example, Ken, is that we're talking about the fact that campaigning is a whole lot different from governing. Your teeth are on the table for criticism when you are the governor because you put yourself in that position. You have to be, what am I going to do? A Game of Thrones? You have to withstand the fire. You have to be ready for it. When I interview these candidates, I always say, why are you leaving the private sector? Do you know what you're getting into? You can't pay me to run for office because I don't really feel like I don't feel like I know what you have to experience, and these people have to experience that. Let's see how they're going to do.
You got a cool guy on your Raising America podcast. One of my favorite Congress members. Did I see that's coming up? Mike Lawler, one of my favorite people in Congress, because this guy reaches across the aisle like it's nobody's business. Yet here's a perfect example of a Republican that would still work in New York because he knows he can speak both languages, if you will. So I defer to you.
Well, listen, this is the guy who represents where George Soros lives and the Clintons lives, and he's a Republican. It doesn't get any better than that. But listen, the Democrats have a lot of eyes on this, right? So this is another example where everyone is fighting to get to the majority in the House. But then if you and I can talk about if there's going to be factions within the Democratic Party and the Republican Party, is anything ever going to get done? Are we going to have the same conversation every year? You and I are going to be talking about this. Will they get anything done is the bottom line. I'm probably going to say no. It's just our taxpayer dollars for a cat fight.
But it gives us something to talk about.
All day, everything.
All right, my dear friend, journalist, mom, wife, host of the Raising America podcast. Check it out on YouTube. News Nation's Elizabeth Pran. Thank you as always for coming on this morning, my friend. All right. And for those of you watching on New Jersey, you stay tuned because we're going to be right back with local news, traffic, and weather. If you're watching on LACA on the West Coast, stay tuned for your local news, and we will be back in 2. very good morning. It is Thursday, June 25th, 2026. Welcome back to On New Jersey Mornings. I'm Ken Rosato, taking calls at 888-658-0234. Let's bring on meteorologist Mike Favetta, because, Mike, we got a very sobering update here. And we knew when we heard that in Venezuela there were two earthquakes back to back, two massive earthquakes back to back, 7.2, 7.5. Back to back within 37, 38 seconds. So literally when the rumbling stopped, people caught their breath, and then it started again. Talk about being in the ninth depth of hell. We now know, and we knew this was going to happen. It happened just before sunset, and you knew that it was going to be sunrise before a lot more of the damage was discovered. We now understand that at least 164 are dead, 971 are hurt. And that's going to go up all day. And these people are struggling now that Maduro's out. I don't want to get political, but they're struggling to get back on their feet under the interim president, Delcy Rodriguez, who's doing an amazing job getting the country back in shape. These people are they saw the light of day, and then this has to happen to them, which is awful. So now the United States, Secretary of State Rubio just spoke. The United States is sending massive amounts of aid to them. This is where you put all the politics aside and just help your fellow human beings out and see whatever you can do. So the problem is the airport in Caracas is damaged. The runway's cracked. So you can't land in Caracas. They're going to have to land in the area airports around. And we have the massive C4s that we want to send there. So that's going to be tough. We'll figure it out as we always do. But just prayers, anyone who has family in Caracas, and we have a lot of Venezuelans in our area, tons, thousands upon thousands. Our prayers are with you this morning, and we'll see whatever we can do to help out. But 164 dead, 971 hurt. Sorry to take some of your time,
sir. And from a search and rescue perspective, Ken, when earthquakes are that large, the aftershocks are usually quite large as well and go on for weeks. So to have magnitude 6 and potentially even another 7 occur in the next several days is certainly likely, as I'm sure they still have the shaking continuing this morning.
Yeah, I want people to remember that Caracas, before communism came in, Caracas was one of the, if not the wealthiest, I think it was the wealthiest city in South America, and it was like in the top 10 wealthiest cities in the world. People think South America, they think different standards. Caracas was an incredible, there's a skyline that rivals any big American city. It was a beautiful city until you got dictators who came in and took a lot of the money. But they make oil money, and they're headed back that way now. And it just breaks my heart to see these people who, if you went and visited Caracas, I did 25 years ago. If you went and visited Caracas, you would think you were in Minneapolis or Los Angeles. It's a beautiful city. And I just pray for these people and hope they get back on their feet. This is devastating for them. But anyway, sir, thank you very much.
Yeah. You bet. Well, we've got some weather to talk about this morning for New Jersey, because an impressive warm up on the way, with temperatures yesterday that felt summer-like, but not terribly humid. It was one of those perfect summer days, and we're starting that off again this morning with a little bit of humidity working back into the picture, already at 70, which is 2 degrees warmer than this time yesterday in Newark. The dew points, or the temperature where the air is saturated, still rather muggy down the shore, but north and west starting to dry out. That dry weather lasts and ends today, because into tomorrow, with a little bit of a southwesterly breeze, you'll see the futurecast sees highs climb back into the 80s today, but it's with a clear sky and a southwesterly wind. It's the front off to the west that moves in around midnight, providing the rain, and that extra push of humidity really makes it feel muggy throughout the day tomorrow, also giving us some scattered clouds, maybe a few showers as temperatures climb to near 90. So 90, cloudy, and humid. It's looking pretty wet tomorrow as well, with that soggy weather lasting into Saturday. I think Sunday looks much drier, so if you have any outdoor plans, Sunday is the day to enjoy them, especially with the milder feel and a drier start to next week as well. Next few days featuring the warm up today, rain on the way for Saturday, and then drier and sunny again by Sunday. Ken, we'll talk more about the weekend weather coming up with another check of your forecast.
Sir, thank you. 63 degrees right now, northern New Jersey. We have 67 degrees in Trenton. And the FIFA World Cup has brought international soccer fans to our region and certainly elevated soccer's role in the United States and in northern New Jersey. But many local restaurants, bars, and hotels say they have not yet seen the economic boost that they expected. We talked with our friend from Binge.com, Tom Bergeron, about this a little while ago. As businesses look to make the most of the tournament and avoid potential legal pitfalls, we are now joined by Damian Conforti, who is the chair of the Hospitality Law Group at Mandelbaum Barrett and legal counsel to the New Jersey Restaurant and Hospitality Association. Good morning. It's great to have you on, Damian.
Thank you, Ken. Thanks for having me. It's great to be here.
Well, we talked with our friend Tom Bergeron from Binge.com, who, he's all about New Jersey business and he knows the deal. And yes, I get what he was saying earlier. I'm not sure if you saw the interview. He was saying that a lot of people didn't regulate their expectations and they thought, 1.2, 1.3 million people are going to come here. We're going to all have a windfall. That might have been hoping for the moon. On the flip side, I think that there was money set aside by the state for local businesses. And I know a lot of people saying, where's that money? Where did it go? How did it get spent? So I defer to you, sir.
Yeah, well, anytime that an event like this happens, there's increased security costs, there's demands of FIFA. They are very much in control of the flow of revenue to the extent they can in and around the stadium. So that's the justification for some of the price increases to cover the cost of actually hosting the event. But let's talk about what you just referred to. So if we're going to have increased costs and devote additional revenue to that, what are we to expect? And I do agree with you that I think expectations were kind of set very lofty and are not being met. But to be fair and to be careful, we're still in the early stages, right? Mm-hmm. And we have the big game coming up in a few weeks. And so that's where I really think you're going to see, is the juice worth the squeeze here? Are we going to get that influx of revenue where we expect hotel rates to really skyrocket for the weekend of the big final match? And we expect to see maybe some of the fans and patrons that have not gone out and been in local bars and restaurants to do so for things like watch parties.
So, Damian, if you were to advise local businesses, we're going to give you a different hat here. If you were to advise local businesses to come up with creative ways to attract fans who may be staying in Manhattan, and we want to get them to come to New Jersey more or whatever, what would you say that local businesses can do?
Well, history is a teacher, right? It always is. And I think with anything, you have to know your business, you have to know your brand and what you're putting out there. What's the specialty item? What's the draw for you as a local business or a local hotel? Is it proximity? Is it the fan base? We've seen these great videos of the Norway fans all around the tri-state area, really just putting on a show. Is there a draw there for you as a local business? And treating it like any other special event or holiday that might be a draw in your area. Use this as a time to focus on sponsoring and getting the word out for what your brand is and where you can allocate resources around some of these larger matches where it might be a draw, with an eye toward, we always want this to have a long-term effect. I say that history is a teacher. We've seen this with the MetLife and the Super Bowl. I think it was 2014. There were a lot of challenges in getting fans in and out of what is MetLife Stadium, now known as New York, New Jersey Stadium for purposes of the FIFA World Cup. But the teacher there is that you need to understand the traffic patterns. You need to understand how fans are going to feel waiting as long as they are to get into the game, to get out of the game. And then you need to understand the rules around sponsorship. I mentioned FIFA has essentially a lockdown on corporate sponsors, and you need to look no further than the stadium itself to see, when you look up, it's New York, New Jersey Stadium. The same applies for how they treat sponsorships. And if you're going to host something like a watch party, you have to be careful about what you can say and what you can advertise if it's not essentially sponsored by FIFA.
Right. You can't, just like Super Bowl, you can't call it Super Bowl watch party. It has to be the big game, right? So you're not stepping on the copyright, the copyright name. So, and understandably so, it is a business. FIFA, we get wrapped up in it, but FIFA is a business. That's the reality. You want the pretty uniforms and the money to fly these people all over the world. It's investors and a company. So, what are some, we got about 30 seconds left. What would you say some of the common mistakes that hospitality businesses are making when they try to take advantage? And how does social media, like 30 seconds, that's a lot. How does social media help in this case?
Well, managing expectations, number one. As I stated, when do we expect a crowd like the Norway fans to be in the area? Is this going to be a typical Friday night? Do I need to ramp up my raw ingredients and have available extra food? Is the bar going to be packed? That's a difficult thing to assess, and really you have to sort of take it as it goes. I think that social media is a must for any hospitality business. Your brand and how you put out on social media what your brand is critical. Again, not just for the short term and the big match that's coming up and throughout this tournament, but is it something that's going to persist for the long term? That's where you're going to realize the most gain. So zeroing in on that product, that aspect of your business that makes it special. You're getting an introduction to fans from all around the world for the first time. The key is to get them to come back. Maybe not the international fans, but the people who might patronize the business for the first time. How do we get them to come back and remain loyal customers?
There you go. Damien, what's a website, I guess, for Mandelbaum Barrett? What's a website for you guys?
MD Law Firm. You can put Mandelbaum Barrett into Google, any search engine, and get to us. There is a hospitality landing page on the site as well. So we should be out there and able to be searched.
All right. In the meantime, go have fun with FIFA. That's the thing. It's nice to see the energy, and damn, the Norwegians are fun. Who knew? Who knew? We figured there were some communist country or socialist country in Northern Europe, and what the hell? We didn't realize 5 million people, and they're showing us what it is to have a good time. Damien Conforti, chair of the chair of the Hospitality Law Group at Mandelbaum Barrett, legal counsel to the New Jersey Restaurant and Hospitality Association. Damien, thank you so much for coming on today.
Thank you, Ken.
You bet. All right. When we come back, a caring mentor can make a lasting difference in a young person's life. But new research suggests the impact goes far beyond confidence and support. We're back in 2 minutes. Welcome back to On New Jersey Mornings. Ken Rosato at 8:18, taking calls at 888-658-0234. Straight to meteorologist Mike Favetta, who has the full Garden State forecast. Good morning, Mike.
Good morning, Ken. Beautiful weather today. Another repeat of yesterday's awesome forecast. And with the dry weather that remains today, we stay nice and clear this morning into the afternoon. Humidity in check and temperatures feeling quite average. And we like average, especially when they mean the low 80s with sunshine throughout central New Jersey today. You notice that the dew points or the humidity climbing throughout the afternoon tomorrow. Anytime we're above 70, that's where it feels like Florida humidity. And that's what we tap into by Friday, especially in the afternoon, where it stays very warm and muggy in through Saturday as air temperatures hover in the mid 80s up to around 90. That high humidity lasts for Friday and Saturday. So we're back to the very muggy weather to start the weekend, but we finish the weekend on a little bit of a dry note, especially by the end of the weekend. Now, with that high humidity and heat, temperatures will feel like they're in the 90s briefly both days on Saturday and or Friday and Saturday, and then we clear things out nicely by Sunday, leading to a much more pleasant feel on the way into next week. So with the UV index back up at an 8, which is very high on the scale, need the sunscreen, you could burn quite easily given how clear the sky is and how nice and warm it feels each afternoon. So the futurecast showing with our next round of rain not coming until later tonight. We're dry all this afternoon. We get a lovely breeze off of the water, keeping the coast a little bit cooler, but you head inland and it feels hot and humid. And with that, we have a few extra passing clouds and showers in through tomorrow afternoon. And again on Saturday, I think Saturday will have times of dry weather, but plan more so on the clouds and a few passing showers. Sunday is nice and dry. And then, of course, back to work and maybe starting off camp on Monday. That's where the clear sky remains and should be remaining all through the rest of next week, even with the long range futurecasts putting all of that sunshine around us, even into the holiday weekend. We'll tell you more about it coming up with the check of your forecast and the 7-day weather, Ken. It's in your next weather update.
All right, Mike, thank you, sir. 63 degrees right now in northern New Jersey, 67 degrees in Trenton, it's 61 degrees Cape May, and 64 in Vineland. A caring mentor can make a lasting difference in a young person's life, but new research suggests that impact goes far beyond confidence and support. There's a groundbreaking study that's showing that mentorship can also improve educational outcomes, increase earning potential, and strengthen local economies. So it goes on. William Salcedo is the executive director of Big Brothers Big Sisters of coastal and northern New Jersey. We say good morning to William.
Good morning, Ken. Thank you for this opportunity.
Well, it's great to have you on. I know Big Brothers Big Sisters does insanely, incredibly good work, and you've been around for a long time. I don't know how some communities could exist and the kids in those communities could exist without your organization. So tell us about how long you've been serving, 50 years, your organization. What makes mentorship so powerful?
Well, we've been creating and supporting one-to-one relationships for over 50 years, Ken. Today, we serve 10 counties, impact over 2,100 youth through our evidence-based mentoring programs. At its core, our mission is simple: helping young people reach their potential. And this research shows that it goes beyond just changing individual lives. It strengthens families, builds stronger communities, and creates long-term economic impact.
And I think what people don't understand is, especially when you have many households that, excuse me, I'm controlling social media with my right hand and talking to you with my left here. That when you're dealing with households that in many cases are broken households, et cetera, and kids may not have one or the other parent at the home or not a sibling to turn to. Having Big Brothers Big Sisters there is everything, because you're talking about having somebody there while the parent may be struggling to work and bring in money. Just somebody to talk to, somebody to ask advice of, somebody to help with homework. People just don't give it the thought. They take for granted when they have it, and they don't realize how essential this is. So talk about what some of the research has found.
Well, there was a recent study conducted by Harvard University and United States Department of Treasury where they were able to follow Big Brothers Big Sisters mentees and see how they did later in life. What they found, Ken, was remarkable. Kids were more likely to go to college, higher incomes in their adult lives, and just greater economic opportunities for them.
Yeah, and if you think about that, you're talking about changing the trajectory of somebody's entire life. And when you have kids who go to college or trade school and come out and have a career in their early 20s, as opposed to getting in the criminal justice system, you're talking about impacting the entirety of society. So just doing that little time, volunteering a little time to help a kid, rather than sitting back and complaining about these kids today, that can make all the difference, not just in their lives, but society at large.
That's correct. And the data shows, Ken, that mentees are 20% more likely to enroll in college compared to their non-mentored peers. And when they enter the workforce, it's incredible. They're experiencing a 15% higher income between the ages of 20 and 25 compared to their non-mentored peers. And the last data point, which blew my mind, was that as adults, a mentee's income aligns more closely to the higher income of their mentor compared to their family of origin. So they're striving their economic impact to what their mentor's job status is. So for example, I've been with the organization for 18 years, and we've had littles that have gone to college, they become engineers, and they've circled back and they're mentoring kids and they're paying it forward. It's an incredibly unique experience to be part of this organization.
Now, you say be part. So how does somebody become part of the organization? Is it just open to parents, to teachers, or anybody who can donate, dedicate a day or two a week? I mean, talk about what it takes to be a mentor.
Just being yourself. It's doing little things that you do every single day, taking a walk, going for a hike, shooting hoops, going to the museum. It doesn't take a lot to make a huge impact in the lives of a child. It cost our organization $2,000 to put together a relationship for 1 year. And that is the screening, the training, the case management, and the outcomes for these kids. And it's the long-term success that we see in terms of helping them build resiliency, helping them overcome risky behaviors and avoiding it. And last is just educational success, Ken. It's helping these kids with post-secondary options, whatever that may look like for them. Is it college? Is it VOTEC? Is it the military service? But just helping these kids for the first time going to college and helping them break the poverty cycle.
Yeah, it's certainly not a choice to sit on the street corner and cause mayhem. And that's the thing. When they don't know that there are options available and people who care and people who will help them along the way, then of course they're going to choose the least common denominator. All they need is somebody who looks them in the eye and says, you know what, you're worth it. You have a life, you have a wonderful life you could give, and you're going to be a very successful person. I think so many young people don't have that. You just have to have somebody look you in the eye and say, you're going to be a great success. You're going to be a doctor, a lawyer, a mayor, or whatever. You're going to own a big business. You're going to be the guy I'm going to be coming to for help in a couple of years. So you better get going. And I think some of these people, some of the younger people I've worked with over the years, it's amazing to see 5-10 years what ends up happening to their lives. They just need to know that they're worth it, and people realize that. What's a website for more information, please?
It's mentornj.org to learn more about the organization. It only takes a couple of hours a month to really change a child's life. We talk about changing society, and we can do this one child at a time, Ken.
That's it. That's it. And God bless you and your organization, Big Brothers, Big Sisters of Coastal and Northern New Jersey. Been around for a lot of years, and there's a reason you've been around for a lot of years, because you do great work. And we thank you so much for coming on this morning. Please come back. William Salcedo, Executive Director. Great to have you here.
Thank you, Ken.
You bet. All right. Coming up on 8:28, when we come back, some of the biggest diet and nutrition rules we've been taught may actually be working against us. We'll explain. very good morning to you. It is Thursday, June 25th, 2026. Right now we have a temp of 63 degrees northern New Jersey, 67 degrees down in Trenton. And it is Ken Rosato here. Welcome back to On New Jersey Mornings. Mixed sun and clouds today. Straight to meteorologist Mike Favetta with the full Garden State forecast. Mike, a little stickier today than we've had.
Little bit more, yes, but a touch of humidity, like a skosh, if you will, going into this afternoon because yesterday was so pleasantly dry. Even though there's slightly more humidity today, it will still feel rather comfortable with the weather down the shore, thanks to a lovely breeze off of the water, keeping temperatures in check in the low 80s. You have to head inland to enjoy more of those mid to upper 80s, and I think throughout this afternoon, with just a light breeze, looks lovely. The pollen a little bit higher through this afternoon, so even though we're still at the moderate level, still sneezing out there, especially throughout the afternoon with the weeds concentration a little bit higher, even though tree pollen season's pretty much ended. Weeds and ragweeds tend to be the predominant pollen and allergen going into this afternoon. So with the average high of 85 degrees, we make it there today, getting back up into the 80s. Loads of sun today will warm us nicely. Water temperatures have warmed over into the low 70s up at Sandy Hook, but a little further south where there's some upwelling happening down the shore, like in Atlantic City, the temperature dropped a few degrees thanks to that cooler water kind of bubbling up from underneath the warmer layer of water that we've all been enjoying. Through this afternoon, we're dry tomorrow, a little bit more of a chance of rain, especially in the afternoon, but Saturday, I think that's the day that it'll be pretty wet this weekend, clearing by Sunday, nice and dry weather returning for the second half of the weekend. And you can see why here, the futurecast showing that rain moving in with the warm front, have a little bit of the cold front coming in and kind of sliding by to our north. That's why tomorrow, on Friday, we have some spotty showers through the afternoon, but it all clears out by Sunday. Big high pressure sneaks on in from the north and west and pushes out the clouds, the showers, brings back lovely dry weather, and it'll feel very pleasant going into the next several days. For the 7-day forecast, we're nice and dry to start off the rest of our week, at least for tomorrow, but Saturday has most of the rain. I think Sunday clears out nicely. Notice the warm up in temperatures back into the 80s, and then we make a run for the 90s by the middle of next week. That is with heat and humidity, so you can only imagine how warm it'll be. Places down south could be up to 98 degrees at the beaches by next Wednesday. So really hot weather coming in just about a week away, just in time for the 4th, Ken.
All right, Mike, I'm going to do quick traffic and I'm going to ask you, can you hover by, because we're going to talk a little bit about the earthquake again. We have those latest numbers. So if I can get you back in about a minute or so, right after we do a traffic report, and we'll tap dance through the latest info, if you don't mind. Thank you, sir. It is 60 degrees right now, northern New Jersey, 67 degrees in Trenton. So inland, it's getting warmer more rapidly. You get the little bit of a lower temperature near the water still. So, pardon me. It is 60, as I mentioned, northern New Jersey, and we have a temperature of 59 degrees Cape May, again, because of the water, but it's 64 in Vineland as you go in at 8:33. And here's what we have in terms of traffic, a lot of stuff. Let's start on 287. There's a truck fire, 287 southbound, south of exit 12, Route 623, Franklin Township. You can see on the left side of your screen, look at the band of traffic you have headed into that area. The right lane and ramp lane are now closed, and that is all because of this truck fire that started a little over an hour ago, and now the damage is done. It stretches several miles of delays. 287, again, southbound, south of exit 12 in Franklin with the right lane and ramp lane closed. New Jersey Turnpike, we have a crash. It's been going on for about an hour as well. It's on the outer roadway southbound, south of interchange 8A, Route 32, Monroe Township, left shoulder blocked there. We have a crash on the Garden State Parkway southbound, south of exit 143C, Route 124, Irvington. All lanes are open, but just really slow traffic making your way through that area. Another problem on the turnpike, back to the turnpike, there's an overturned vehicle now. Turnpike inner roadway southbound, south of interchange 8A. Okay, that is different from the earlier one. The other one was on the outer roadway. This is on the inner roadway. So interesting by 8A and Monroe. Right lane is blocked on that. We have a crash and a tractor trailer fire on the turnpike inner roadway northbound, north of interchange 12, Carteret Rawway in Carteret. All lanes have been blocked, and everybody's getting by on a shoulder. You could see the flashing lights there. You see everybody getting by on the right shoulder. So all the traffic is stopped there to the left. Just an absolute mess. And that's been going on since the beginning of the broadcast at 7 a.m. We have a crash now on the New Jersey Turnpike inner roadway southbound, north of interchange 12, all lanes open. So on the flip side of the roadway in the opposite direction, that was closed earlier, that's now open, but you have rubbernecking traffic, just an absolute mess. And then if you think, okay, I'll make it to the Lincoln Holland, I'll be okay, not so much. There we go. That was the opposite view of the turnpike. Right now, the approach to the Holland Tunnel is going to cost you 45 minutes in. Lincoln is 40. There was an earlier fire or police activity, rather, at the Lincoln Tunnel. That's been wrapped up, but you still have 40 minutes in. And the GWB upper and lower level, 80 and 95. This is the look at that. They got to zoom in on that. But the upper level is on the right, lower levels on the left. Lower clearly going to save you some time. So take the lower level if you're making your way to the GWB. All in all, about 40 minutes into Manhattan. 8:36 right now is our time, and Mike is going to come back now, and we're going to talk about this earthquake, or this pair of earthquakes that happened. This happened in Venezuela at about dinner time. It was 6 o'clock last night, the height of evening rush. Now, Caracas, Venezuela is millions of people. People, I think we have a very U.S.-centric viewpoint in our minds of, we have these sophisticated cities here with big buildings, and they don't there. Caracas is several million people. The infrastructure is enormous. They have a skyline that rivals many American cities. It's a big, modern city. Used to be one of the wealthiest places in the world because of oil money. Venezuela is one of the most oil-rich countries in all of South America, if not I believe it might be the most oil-rich of all of South America, until the socialists and the communists took over, and Maduro took all that money and took control of all of the oil companies. And so a lot of the people then saw poverty. But up until the 80s, late 80s, people who lived in Caracas, they would get dividends from the country. They would get a check in the mail every year, and they didn't even have to work if they didn't want to, much like they do in Saudi Arabia. You get like a basic government stipend, 20, 30,000 a year. Not a lot to be super wealthy, but every man, woman, and child got that because of oil money. In came Maduro, that ended. I say that only because the infrastructure was not as cared for in the last couple of decades because of that. And now you have this massive earthquake, a 7.2 followed by a 7.5. Let me ask you this, as a person who studies earth science, obviously. Is it uncommon to have two massive earthquakes that close together?
No, it's very common, and I'll show you the map here, which shows you the spatial, how close in proximity they were. So behind me, you have all of the earthquakes over the last 24 hours. We'll zoom on in here to South America, and you can even see there were a few rumbles over toward the islands, which is very common in the Caribbean. So north coast of South America, that's where we are, and Caracas is right over here. There were a few earthquakes even just after the big some aftershocks, I should say, but there's the 7.2 and the 7.5 last evening around 3 p.m. our time, 6 p.m. their time, and then a few more that happened over very close to the city of Caracas, right there along this fault line. So it's a fault that's well known and well documented. All of the faults really are well documented across the globe. This one in the Caribbean, it's the Caribbean plate, which is smashing up against the South American plate, and that's what's causing these along the fault line. So to have two large earthquakes, to answer your question more directly, right along that fault line is quite common, and you can even see already aftershocks occurring in that 4+ range just shortly thereafter, minutes after the initial shock occurred. We'll probably see more in the weeks to come, and that's something that was right along that line where this Caribbean plate is located there along the the South American plate, the northern edge of the South American plate, Ken.
We think of the few times we've had a 2.7 in New Jersey. I remember we had that a couple of years ago. We had, I think within the last year, we had a couple of minor ones, and it becomes the headline news here, but there's no damage. It's just, you feel a little vibration. Imagine this. Now, the latest numbers, just so you know, and this was, we just have sunrise happening there. So it's fairly early yet. I'm sure as the day goes on and more rescues or attempted rescues occur, we'll get different numbers. But right now, sadly, 164 people are dead and 971 have been rushed to hospitals injured. Think of those numbers. 164 dead, 971 in a city that has a lesser population than New York. think about what that would mean. Think about New York. Think almost in terms of 9/11 and what 9/11 was for New York in terms of the numbers. You're close to that in terms of ratios. It is terrifying to think of this. And again, as you mentioned earlier, there could be many, many more aftershocks that could cause a lot more damage.
Yeah, the aftershocks are what concerns me because it's right as you're making buildings more unstable during search and rescue operations, or you're so close to getting someone, and then some of the rubble shifts and makes it more challenging. So that's the problem and the concern. Even with the main damage that was done, just a little more shaking from even energy that's half as powerful could create some more casualties in the coming days.
Yeah, I think for people who don't realize, again, there is a huge skyline in Caracas, Venezuela, rivaling any major modern American city. They built that city on oil in the 70s and 80s, and it was just a massive skyline. You could see some images of it there, and a lot of those buildings are now going to be compromised. They're going to have their structural integrity checked to make sure that there aren't cracks in the foundation, to make sure that the beams are holding it up. Because would you want to get on the 30th, 40th floor of one of those high rises in an area where maybe 2 blocks away one of the buildings toppled? And that's
No,
terrifying.
and
Where are these people
it
going to
takes
sleep?
months. Right, it takes months. If you remember, there was the big earthquake about 10 or 15 years ago in Modena, Italy, and one of my friends is a geologic engineer, out there, structural engineer, who had to go and survey all of the buildings. He didn't sleep or have, he was working double shifts for months, going through every building and making sure they're all, worthy of people, habitating them. So that's occupying them, I should
Yeah.
say. So that's something that is now in the phases to come in the next few weeks. All of the restless nights ahead for many factions of people.
Absolutely terrifying. Again, the latest numbers: 164 dead, 971 hurt. That's just as the sun came up. That's what they were able to put together. That will, I'm sure, change sadly over the course of the day. United States, because we now have a good relationship with the interim president, the United States is sending aid. The problem that we have there right now is the major airport in Caracas is shut down because there are cracks on the runway. So we can't send C-4s. So we're going to have to send smaller planes. It's going to take a little bit more time, but we might be able to coordinate with the neighboring countries, Colombia, Peru, et cetera, and then they'd have to get everything in by car. Mike, always love your expertise on this matter. Thank you so much, sir. Appreciate it.
You bet.
You bet. All right, it's 8:43 right now, and we have a temperature of 67 degrees. When we come back, it is budget season in New Jersey, and residents have been feeling the impact of rising utility bills. Our friends from AARP New Jersey will present a segment that you will not want to miss. We're coming back in 2. Don't go away. Welcome back to On New Jersey Mornings. I'm Ken Rosato, 845, taking calls at 888-658-0234. Straight to meteorologist Mike Favetta with the full Garden State forecast.
Good morning, Ken. A little bit of rain on the way, but specifically the heavier downpours that arrive later on tonight into tomorrow and could potentially take us into Saturday may put down up to an inch of rain where it's needed most across northern New Jersey. So we've been at a rainfall deficit over the last 30 days, and even beyond that, the drought extending well beyond that. Look at this area here in Flemington, over toward Burlington, or a little north, there in Hunterdon County, a 2 to 4-inch rainfall deficit. So the ground is really dry, and we could certainly use some of that wet weather as that severe drought extends up to northern New Jersey, the extreme drought in red across most of southern New Jersey, where a lot of our produce is grown here in the Garden State. So looking throughout the next few days, the dry weather today comes to an end by tonight. We say goodbye to the sunshine, the 80s, and bring back some rain into the overnight, leading to a pretty wet day tomorrow with mostly cloudy skies and warmer weather into the first week of July. So even beyond the holiday, look at that stretch of hot weather that extends all the way to the east, even out through the Midwest. It'll get very warm around here, and you can see it reflected on the 7-day. Upper 80s by the end of the weekend when the sunshine returns, low and mid 90s. And yeah, the computer's been very persistent about putting triple-digit heat upon us, say sometime this time next week, beginning probably midweek and taking us into Thursday. So some very hot weather on the way. If you remember, this time last year, we also had some very hot weather, which led to some uncomfortable conditions. That will likely be the case again as we kick off July, Ken, with a lot of warm weather.
All right, Mike. Thank you very much, sir. Appreciate it. 8:47 is the time. Have a good day, Mike, by the way. Thank you. It is 62 degrees now, northern New Jersey, 67 degrees in Trenton. We have a lot of traffic to tell you about, so let's get right to it. Let's start on the Turnpike. We have a couple of different issues. First, I'm going to mention the overturned vehicle. We don't have a camera shot of this one. This is an overturned vehicle on the Turnpike, inner roadway southbound, south of interchange 8A, which is, that's by Monroe Township. The right lane is blocked there. We have two other things on the Turnpike. I'll get that out of the way first. We have a crash and tractor trailer fire on the Turnpike inner roadway northbound, north of interchange 12 in Carteret. All lanes are blocked and traffic is getting by on the left shoulder. We do have a shot of that, you can see. You could stay on that shot, Pam, because I'm going to tell you about the other side. New Jersey Turnpike inner roadway southbound, north of interchange 12. All lanes are open, but there's rubbernecking. So on the flip side, that was closed earlier, and that is now open, but there's rubbernecking. So on the one side, you have closure only the shoulder allowing you to get through, and that's on the southbound. That's on the northbound side. Southbound side is open, but bumper to bumper. We have problems on 287. There's a truck fire right now southbound, south of exit 12 in Franklin. Right lane and ramp lane are both closed. And then on the Garden State Parkway, we do have this. There is a crash on the GSP southbound, south of exit 143C. So 143C, which is Route 124, Irvington. All lanes are open. I think we have that camera shot, right? This is either the tower shot or the night. There you go. So it's moving. You could see slow. This is about a mile before the incident. That's why you could see the traffic kind of slowing down as it goes toward there. And then your Hudson River crossings have been a mess all morning long. Holland Tunnel is going to cost you about 40 minutes in. That's Route 139 coming off of the Turnpike. The Lincoln Tunnel is 40 to 45 minutes in, and the GWB now has an issue. We have a disabled tractor trailer on the GWB right now. That's on the upper level, and that's causing 2 lanes to be blocked. So look at the mess you have. The tractor trailers all have to take the upper level. That's why you see them off to the right. That's the upper level. Lower's on the left. If you were a car trying to cross, definitely take the lower level into Manhattan. What an absolute mess. All right. Our time now is 8:49, and the following is brought to you by our good friends at AARP New Jersey. Well, New Jersey residents certainly have been feeling the impact of rising utility bills, with many wondering why energy costs continue to climb. As lawmakers debate new proposals involving data centers and utility rates, questions remain about what's driving these increases and what can be done to provide relief. Remember, we were supposed to have everything change as of day one of the new administration. I know they're trying, but you got to scratch your head and say, what's going on? Joining us now is Brian Lippman, Director of the New Jersey Division of Rate Counsel, to help break it all down. Good morning to you, Brian. Good to have you on.
Good morning, Ken. Nice to see you.
I know everybody wants to snap their fingers and see things change, but it's not that easy, right? There's a lot to it. Utility bills, they become a major concern for New Jersey families, and that impacts the price of kind of everything else, doesn't it? Because all the companies and the warehouses, they got to pay utility bills too.
Yeah, no, that's something that a lot of people don't seem to realize is that the bills don't just affect your residents, they affect the businesses as well. From the mom and pop stores that, have a refrigerator or freezer in the back, that they're paying higher electric bills, to major manufacturing that has electric bills. It ripples through the entire economy, and that causes other prices to go up.
And is this unique to New Jersey right now, or is the rate as high everywhere else, or is it just like certain pockets?
I would say throughout the country, it's an issue that's being discussed throughout the country. When I talk to my consumer advocates in other states, all the way out to California, this is an issue. Data centers are a huge issue. The amount of electricity that's being used is a huge issue. Here in PJM, Maryland especially is being hard hit. Virginia is being hard hit. This is not a New Jersey problem, and that's part of the issue. Is that because it's not a New Jersey problem, New Jersey can't solve it by itself.
Yeah, Brian, we talked on the show in the last few months about solutions for these data centers. One being, I think Pulte Homes had a deal where I think 5 or 10,000 of their new homes were going to put these units the size of HVACs on the property. They were going to give the homeowner who bought the unit free internet, free Wi-Fi and internet. And those little units were going to be individual data centers. So there wouldn't be one giant demand on the grid. There would be a bunch of little demands, if you will, scattered among homes. So you wouldn't have as much of a demand of water and electricity, et cetera. And then you have Tesla was going to use all the individual Tesla cars as individual collective data centers. Why are these not being explored more? Why are companies still talking about building massive data centers that would literally suck up all the energy of a town?
Well, two things. One, even though you're looking at individual uses, you have to look at the overall use total, and that's what the grid is going to be taking on. So even though we're having each home use their own electricity, the grid still has to supply the electricity to all those homes. The other thing is not everyone has that in their home. So I'm certain every one of your viewers has some type of smartphone in their hands, and they're doing AI searches. Those AI searches use significantly more electricity than a normal search. So our demand for data is driving demand for data centers. That's really what's happening. And what you're seeing is these massive data centers being built in response to the requirements of people who are using the AI.
So now the question is, how can regulators make sure that residential customers aren't unfairly shouldering the huge costs from these large commercial users?
Well, that's the real key here. I mean, the data centers are really the reason we're seeing what we're seeing right now. The PJM Independent Market Monitor said, but for the data centers, we wouldn't have seen those massive increases last year in the PJM market. And that's really, it's kind of supply and demand, but the demand is being driven by data centers. The goal here has to be to make the data centers pay for the demand that they are creating. And that means they need to build their own generation, their own supply, and bring it to us so that residential customers aren't paying for more generation. Part of what's happening is residential customers are being asked to pay more for generation because data centers need that generation. And that's an unfair burden on the residential customers. What we need to do is figure out a way to make sure that data centers are paying their fair share.
And also, I know that some cities around the country have been talking about having these data centers literally provide their own power station, such as like mini nuclear power plants that would be much less dangerous, if you will, because they would be on a micro scale versus the massive 3 Mile Island plants. And because we now have AI can monitor with much more efficiency and much more accuracy, can monitor these nuclear facilities 24/7. I mean, 3 Mile Island, you had people fall asleep at the switch. That's basically what happened. In this case, you would have AI constantly monitoring this, which could offer better control. I know that Governor Sherrill has talked now about exploring the possibility of building a nuclear plant in southern New Jersey now to replace the one that was shuttered in the last few years. Is that something that might be a better long-term goal for us, because that's renewable, it doesn't pollute the atmosphere, et cetera. And nuclear plants today would not be the nuclear plants of 70 years ago, like Indian Point.
So I think nuclear plays a really important role here. The issue is that nuclear is expensive, and who is going to pay for it? If we put it on ratepayers, then ratepayers are essentially paying for a generation that is needed by the data centers. If we build nuclear and the data centers fund it, I think that is a very good solution. It's not the only solution, but it's a very good solution, because what we're doing is we're having the data centers build a new generation that they need, and they're building clean generation. As far as pollution, there's still the nuclear waste issue that we would have to deal with, but carbon-free energy. But who pays for it and how it's paid for is really important, and that's something that a lot of people aren't thinking about. They're thinking about, we need generation, we need it in New Jersey, and we need a nuke would do it, but it's really important who pays for it.
I mean, I remember having lived full time in Miami, they had an issue with parking. And their problem was downtown, like Coral Gables and Miami, there was nowhere to park because you can't build underground because it would flood. So what they did was they said, anyone who builds a building, you now have to make the first 10 floors, whatever, garage. And you have to have not only enough parking for everyone in the building and then some, but you have to provide overflow to the community. Same thing with these utilities, with these AI centers. Why not say you have to build, you are responsible 100% for providing your own electricity. You can't tap into the town. You have to provide your own electricity and provide enough to have overflow to supply the area as well. If that became a requirement and they have to pay for it, I think you'd have people embrace it. But I think you need government to make it easier, to kind of lower some of the regulations a little bit, to make it easier to have that happen. We got about 30 seconds left. What say you, Brian?
The only issue I would say with that is that's not a New Jersey solution, because keep in mind, New Jersey could create that rule and a data center gets built in Pennsylvania across the river, and we still have the same impacts on our bills and on the generation needed. This needs to be a regional wide. We're part of a regional grid. It needs to be a regional solution. And really, PJM or the FERC or the federal government needs to step in and really force the data centers across the country to do it uniformly, the same way in every state. That's really what we need.
Makes sense to me. Brian Lipman, Director of the New Jersey Division of Rate Counsel, thank you so much for your insight. Thanks for coming on this morning.
Thank you for having me. It's good to see you again, Ken.
Likewise. All right. It is now 8:58. We thank you for watching Out of Jersey Mornings. We're back again tomorrow morning, bright and early at 7. Till then, have a great day.